So when you look at that four-step model, cue, craving, response, reward, it's so much more than just a simple toolkit for building
Oh,
habits.
absolutely. It's really a complete framework for understanding why we do anything at all.
And the most profound part of it, I think, is this idea that awareness has to come before desire.
It has to. I mean, think about it. A craving, that feeling of wanting to change your state, it just can't start until you've noticed a cue.
And then assign some kind of meaning to it.
Exactly. So, you walk past a coffee shop, you get the smell, that's the cue.
Right.
But you don't instantly crave coffee. First, your brain has to build an emotion around it. Maybe it's, oh, I'm tired, or a latte would be a nice treat.
It has to construct a story about your current state before it decides it wants to change it,
That's the engine. The feeling about the situation is what powers the craving.
which I think leads us to this really fascinating and kind of paradoxical idea about what happiness really is.
Hmm.
If desire is what drives us to change, then maybe real contentment is just the absence of desire.
That's a fundamental distinction we get wrong all the time. We chase joy or, satisfaction. That's the big feeling you get when you achieve something.
That's the reward.
That's the reward. It's the fulfillment. But contentment, that's the lack of wanting it in the first place. It's looking at a cue and just being okay.
It's observing your current situation and not feeling that internal pull to change anything. But why is that state so temporary? We're so bad at staying there.
Because our minds are just not built for it. I mean, they're constantly scanning for the next problem to solve, the next opportunity.
There's that great line about happiness just being the space between one desire being fulfilled and a new desire forming.
Exactly. It's that little sigh of relief after you send a big email. That's happiness, but then you immediately remember the next thing on your list.
And suffering is the other side of that coin. It's the gap between craving that change and actually getting it, that tension.
Yeah, that's what it is emotionally. It's all tension.
What's really wild is that we're not even chasing the actual thing most of the time. We're chasing the image of the pleasure in our minds.
We're chasing the prediction, the simulation our brain runs of how good it will feel when we finally get the thing. The actual satisfaction, that only comes later.
Which is why so many big achievements feel a little anticlimactic.
Mm-hmm.
Reminds me of Viktor Frankl's point. You pursue desire, but happiness has to
Mm-hmm.
ensue. It has to be a byproduct. You can't aim directly for it.
And if you translate that into a practical way to find peace, it's when you stop turning observations into problems.
Okay, so I see my cluttered desk. That's the observation, the cue.
Right.
Peace is when I can see that and not immediately feel that overwhelming craving, that need to fix it right now.
Yes. Observation without craving is the realization that you don't have to fix everything. You can just exist.
That sounds ideal. So why is it so incredibly hard to do? Why do we always sabotage ourselves, choosing the donut, when we know the apple is the better long-term choice?
Well, this is where we run straight into our own emotional filter. And it's the simple, hard truth that emotions drive our behavior. Every single decision is, at some level, an emotional one.
We just tell ourselves the rational story afterwards.
We do. And you see this in the most tragic way with people who have damage to the emotional centers of their brain. They can list all the pros and cons for an action.
But they can't actually do it. They're paralyzed.
They're paralyzed because they're missing the feeling, the emotional push that turns a reason into an action.
So that brings us to System 1 and System 2 thinking, right?
Exactly. System 1 is your fast, non-conscious gut feeling. It's all about immediate reaction. System 2 is that slow, rational, analytical part of your brain that takes real effort.
And the problem is that System 1 always gets there first.
Always. It makes an instant emotional judgment. The rational part only kicks in later, usually to try and justify what the emotional part has already decided.
Which explains so much about why discipline is so hard. Our actions follow what feels attractive, not what feels logical.
And that's why two people can look at the exact same set of facts and come to completely different conclusions. Their emotional filters are different.
One sees opportunity, the other sees risk.
Precisely. And it's why appealing to emotion is always, always more powerful than appealing to reason. If you can trigger that System 1 response in someone about fear, anger, whatever.
They're not going to be interested in the data.
No, they'll just interpret the data in a way that confirms the feeling they already have.
So self-control becomes this huge psychological battle.
Yeah.
Because a reward, by definition, is something that satisfies a craving.
But inhibiting a desire, it doesn't satisfy it at all. It just ignores it and hopes it goes away.
So you're choosing the non-reward. It feels like a sacrifice, not a win.
Exactly. You don't get that hit of pleasure. You just get quiet. And that's a really tough sell for our brains.
Okay, but if desire is the source of suffering, creating that gap between where you are and where you want to be, we have to look at the other side.
Mm.
That same suffering, that same tension, is also the source of all human progress, isn't it?
It has to be. Without craving, we're content, but we're also stagnant. We lack ambition. The desire for a better life, a healthier body, that's what powers action.
So dissatisfaction with the present is actually what drives improvement.
It's the engine. We have to learn to harness it. It all comes down to the power of deep motivation, finding a why that's big enough.
That famous Nietzsche quote, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how."
That's the core of it. When your desire, your why, is big enough, you can tolerate almost any amount of friction in the how.
Like a doctor going through medical school. The how is brutal, years of it.
Terrible, but the why, becoming a doctor, helping people, is so strong that it overrides all of that short-term pain. Great craving powers, great action.
And you can see this in your own life, can't you? There's a simple test for it.
That's that.
Well, if you say something is a huge priority for you, starting a business, learning an instrument, but you never actually take the first step,
Your actions are telling you the truth.
your actions reveal that the desire just isn't strong enough yet to overcome the friction.
And even if you do start, that initial burst of desire isn't enough to make it stick. You need two things.
Desire initiates.
And pleasure sustains. You have to feel motivated to start, but you have to feel successful to continue. That reward, that feeling of pleasure, is what gets you to repeat the behavior long after the initial motivation is gone.
Which brings us to the most practical part of all of this. Managing satisfaction itself. And it really just comes down to expectations.
It does. There's that simple but
Mm-hmm.
really profound little equation. Satisfaction equals liking minus wanting.
So satisfaction is just the gap between what we get, the liking, and what we expected to get, the wanting.
Right. If you expect $10 and you get 100, you feel amazing. The mismatch is positive.
But if you expect 100 and you only get 10, even though it's still $10 you didn't have, the experience is a massive disappointment.
A huge one. An average outcome with high expectations feels like a failure. But that same average outcome with low expectations can feel like a huge win.
It's like we're constantly moving the goalposts on ourselves.
We are. The baseline just keeps resetting, and it connects to that ancient wisdom from Seneca. Being poor is not having too little, it is wanting more.
If your wants always outpace your likes, you're just stuck in a permanent state of dissatisfaction.
You're always focused on the problem, the desire, instead of enjoying the solution, the reward.
And that cycle of wanting more.
Yeah.
That's why we're so susceptible to new schemes, right? The fad diets, the get-rich-quick plans.
Oh, absolutely. A new plan offers unbounded hope. There's no past experience to ground your expectations in reality.
It's all promise.
It's all promise. But the second time you try that diet, your hope is tempered by experience. It's replaced by a more sober acceptance of the likely outcome.
Youth is easily deceived because it is quick to hope, as Aristotle said.
Yeah, they haven't built up the database of experience to manage those expectations yet.
So it all comes back around. Feelings are there at two critical points in the loop.
They're there before the behavior. That's the craving that motivates you.
And they're there after the behavior. That's the reward that teaches you whether it was worth doing.
So how we feel influences how we act. And how we act turns around and influences how we feel. It's a continuous loop.
And if you really understand that loop, you realize the pain of failure is directly tied to the height of your expectation.
Infinitely more. Failing at something you poured your heart into hurts way more than failing at something you didn't really care about.
Which leaves you with a final kind of provocative thought to chew on.
Okay.
We focus so much on the action, on the work and the sacrifice required to get a reward. But what if the decision not to act, to not even start, what if that's really driven by a subconscious fear?
A fear of what?
The fear that the eventual reward won't live up to the massive, idealized, emotional expectation we've already built in our own heads. The fear of that deep disappointment is so great that it stops us from ever even beginning the work.